Hello friends. We're taking a quick look today at James chapter 5 verses 7 through 11. But to get the gist of this, let's back up to the previous paragraph. In chapter 5 verses 1 through 6, we learn that some of James' readers were living in a time of adversity. How so? The rich were oppressing them. Their wages were being withheld. And according to verse 6, others were even plotting murder against them. Well, what do you say to Christians who face times of distress and personal loss? James says, stand firm. Hold fast to your faith. Don't give up your allegiance to Jesus. Be patient. Endure. I think in chapter 5, verses 7 through 11, that must be the key word, endurance. Patient endurance. He mentions that word 3 or 4 times, doesn't he? What does it mean to patiently endure? What is endurance in the Christian life? We might define it as a dogged or rugged determination not to renounce one's faith, not to fall out of the race, to hang in there with the Lord and to be faithful to Him. Well, how does James encourage his readers to hang in there? First of all, he reminds them that the coming of the Lord is near. That's verse 8. And then he says in the next verse, the judge is standing at the door. Not only is the Lord proximate to us, not only is He near us, not only is He at hand, but His return is sooner than it was just yesterday. He's coming back. And when He comes back, He's going to rescue us and save us from the difficult times that we live in. But He's also going to right all wrongs. And James thinks his readers will be encouraged by this news. The judge is at the doors. In other words, help is on the way. We can remain faithful because of our hope that the Lord is near us and that He's coming to set the record straight. But the second thing that he does to encourage them is to remind them that those who wait in hope and those who endure to the end will be rewarded. The prophets and Job are examples of this. People who were faithful to the end, even in adverse circumstances and difficult situations, they didn't give up their faith in God. And as a result, they were rewarded at the end. And then he also mentions the farmer as an example of this. Just as the farmer waits patiently for the harvest to show itself, just as he watches the natural process from seed, sowing seed, to germination, to plant growth, to the fruit being harvested, so he says the Christian should wait in hope that the reward is sure and it's coming. I think that's the message of the last few verses of this particular paragraph. The reward will be worth it. Well, I don't know what hardship you may be facing just now. I'm sure you're probably facing some kind of trial of one kind or another. And by the way, this takes us right back to chapter 1, doesn't it? James's readers are facing trials in their Christian life, and he's trying to encourage them and help them to sustain their faith. I don't know what difficult times you're going through, but I think this can be encouraging to us. We can withstand whatever adversity we face. We can wait on the Lord for His justice and for His sure reward. We can do that, can't we? And that's how we ought to apply this. We just have to wait on the Lord. You know, what do you do when you're in the midst of distress and troublesome times? Sometimes there's not a whole lot you can do. You just have to wait it out. Well, James says, you folks just wait in hope. Your reward is coming, and your Lord is going to return. Okay, let's briefly talk about a preview of the next few verses. We're going to finish this book in our next section, chapter 5, verse 12 through verse 20. And James is going to deal with several community issues. He's going to talk about oath-taking. He's going to talk about how people react to trouble and to sickness and to sin. And then he's going to conclude his letter with some final words and some admonitions to care for those who are wandering away from the Lord. Care for one another. That's going to be his final word. Okay, and then we'll be through with our study of James. Again, we want to hear from you as to what you'd like to study next. 1st, 2nd, 3rd John, how about Ephesians? How about 1st and 2nd Peter? Those are our options, but if you have another book you'd like to read and study and pray through after a short 2 or 3 week break, please let us know. This has been a great study together, and we have been blessed by your presence and your participation. And we hope you'll be with us in our next study, but help us to determine what that study will be. Okay, have a good weekend, have a good week. I'll see you in a few days as we wrap up the letter of James. God bless.